All right, so you got a new red dot, but you're a little concerned because when you look through it, the dot doesn't actually look like a nice round dot. It might look like a cluster of grapes, it might look like a big starburst, a half moon shape, or a fingernail clipping, or something like that. It's probably the result of having an astigmatism. Now, a lot of people out there actually have astigmatisms and don't necessarily know about it. Your vision can actually even still be perfectly fine, and you could still have an astigmatism. It's just hard to tell until maybe you get something like a red dot or visit the eye doctor, perhaps. Now, this can be the case with just about any reflex style red dot. Now, the Crossfire here you see, this is a red dot system that could be affected by an astigmatism, but we also have the Spark 2, the Spark AR, Strikefire 2. Open top red dots can have this effect too, like the Viper, Venom, or Razor. It's just a matter of how red dots actually function, which is using a parabolic lens that reflects a red LED at the back of the sight back to your eye to get you a point of aim. And that's really the problem that we have with an astigmatism. It just doesn't do well with that reflection of light. Now, what are your options in this case? Now, some people can just manage to work with it if it's not too bad. If you really want to check to see if it's actually a problem with your red dot itself, try taking a picture through the sight with your phone. Your phone's camera doesn't have an astigmatism, so it should show a nice crisp dot. If you see that, then you've basically just diagnosed yourself with an astigmatism, and again, you can kind of choose to either work with it or go another route, which we'll get into. If for whatever reason you are seeing still a weird effect showing when you use your phone, then you might want to call us up and talk to us because there could be an issue. Keep in mind that a couple of the reasons why we've seen some people still have an issue even with their phone, they maybe explain a red halo effect around the outside or something along those lines, is that if your illumination is just up too bright for the conditions that you're in, let's say you're indoors or it's rather low light and you really crank that illumination up there, that's going to cause a lot of stray light that can look like a starburst or something like that that would normally be experienced with astigmatism, but really all you need to do is just turn that brightness down a little bit. Trust us, you don't need it cranked up to max in order to shoot properly. Now, a couple options, let's say that it's really, you do have an astigmatism and it's really just hard for you to use that dot. Now, if you're able to return it and go with something else, we suggest checking out a couple of other products, like, for example, our Spitfire AR, if you still want to go with something that's smaller and 1x. Now, this is a Prism Sight, so think of it almost like a fixed power, 1 power rifle scope. So it's 1 power, kind of like a red dot is, and they're kind of like no power really, but it's a 1 power sight. It's small and compact, but what this has inside is an etched reticle, just like a rifle scope would. It has a glass etched reticle, so that's a physical object that your eye is looking through, and it can illuminate then, red or green actually in this case, and when that illuminates, it won't cause any issue with your astigmatism. It's also convenient too because you can shoot without the illumination and just use a black reticle like you would with a regular rifle scope, for example. So that's an option that we would recommend to a number of people who might have an astigmatism. The other way that you can go to is something like a low power variable, which in this case we have our Strike Eagle 1-6 here. Same kind of deal as the Spitfire Prism Scope because we're using a glass etched reticle that isn't going to have any ill effects with an astigmatism. But in this case, we're using a different kind of an optical system to get us a 1-6, a variable like this. There's also the Strike Eagle 1-8. There's the PST 1-6, the Razor 1-6. There's many different options as you move into that arena. And you also get the convenience of being able to bump it up to 6 power, say, for a mid-range shot or even some long-distance stuff. So these are two examples we check out or consider checking out if you can, if you do have an astigmatism and it prevents you from being able to use traditional red dots. So let us know if you have any other questions, and we're always happy to help. Thanks again.